Ho had been on the research vessel for 3 months now. He was the only human on a ship full of, and he had learned to accept the cold. They kept their ship at 5 degrees Celsius. For them, this was perfect. For Ho, it was like living inside a refrigerator. They were beautiful in their own way. They had pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly in the ship's lights. Their bodies were slim and smooth, and they moved with a grace that Ho found elegant. Commander led the crew with a calm authority. Dr. Neva worried about everything, especially about Ho's health. Pilot was young and full of questions. Engineer worked alongside Ho and always tried to prove she was better than him. Ho wore a thermal suit at all times. It was thick and bulky, covering him from neck to toe. The suit kept his body warm in the freezing ship. They found this strange, but they accepted it. To them, humans were odd creatures from a strange planet called Earth. "You really cannot survive without that suit?" asked him one day in the engineering bay. Ho smiled behind his helmet visor. "I could survive for a while, but I would be very uncomfortable and very cold." Shook her head. Her silver hair moved like water. "Humans are so fragile." Ho did not argue. He had learned that believed humans were weak. They thought Earth was a death world, a planet so dangerous that only monsters could live there. But they also thought those monsters were somehow delicate. It was a strange contradiction that Ho never fully understood. The day started like any other. Ho was checking the power systems in the lower deck, was running tests on the engine output. Commander was on the bridge, and Dr. Neva was in the medical bay preparing for routine health checks. Was at the pilot station, watching the stars drift by. Then the alarm started. Red lights flashed across every corridor. A loud beeping sound filled the ship. Ho looked up from his console and frowned. This was not a normal alarm. "All crew report to stations," Commander said over the ship's communication system. Her voice was calm but tight. "We have a critical system failure." Ho ran to the main engineering console. His thermal suit made running difficult, but he moved as fast as he could. Was already there, her blue fingers flying across the controls. "What is happening?" Ho asked. His face was pale, even paler than usual. "The cooling system, it has failed." "Failed how?" "It is not cooling anymore." Looked at him with wide eyes. "It is heating. The system has reversed. Temperature is rising." Ho checked the readings himself. She was right. The ship's internal temperature was climbing. 6 degrees, 7 degrees, 8 degrees, it was going up fast. "Can we shut it down?" he asked. "I am trying," worked frantically. "But the controls are not responding. Something has damaged the main coolant line. The system is trying to compensate, but it is making everything worse." On the bridge, Commander watched the temperature readings with growing concern. 9 degrees, 10 degrees, 11 degrees. For a human, this would still be cold. For it was getting warm. "Engineering report," she said into the comm. "Commander, we have a serious problem," responded. "The cooling system has malfunctioned. We cannot stop the temperature rise. I estimate it will reach 35 degrees before we can fix it." There was silence on the bridge. 35 degrees. That was deadly for. They could not survive above 25 degrees for long. Their bodies would overheat. Their organs would fail. "How long until repairs are complete?" asked. 6 hours, maybe more." Dr. Neva's voice came over the comm from the medical bay. "Commander, at 35 degrees, the crew will experience heat stroke within 2 hours. We need to evacuate to the emergency cold chambers." Nodded even though no one could see her. "All crew, proceed to emergency cold chambers immediately. This is not a drill." The cold chambers were small rooms at the center of the ship. They had their own separate cooling systems and could maintain safe temperatures even if the rest of the ship failed. But they were small. The crew would be cramped inside. Ho watched as they began to move toward the chambers, stopped at the engineering bay door and looked back at him. "Are you coming?" she asked. Ho looked at the console. The temperature was now 15 degrees. Still cold for him, but he could see they were already uncomfortable, was sweating slightly. He had never seen a sweat before. "Someone needs to stay out here and work on the repairs," he said. Shook her head. "You cannot, the heat will kill you." Ho almost laughed. 15 degrees would kill him. On Earth, that was a pleasant spring day. But he did not laugh, he just nodded. "I will be careful." Did not look convinced, but she had no choice. The heat was already affecting her. She moved toward the cold chambers with the rest of the crew. Commander stayed on the bridge as long as she could. She watched the human work through the security cameras. The temperature climbed to 20 degrees, and she finally had to leave. "Ho," she said over the comm before entering the cold chamber. "Do not risk your life. If the heat becomes too much, join us in the chambers." "Understood, Commander," Ho replied. But they both knew he would not leave. Someone had to fix the ship. Inside the cold chamber, the crew huddled together. It was cramped but safe. The temperature inside stayed at a comfortable 3 degrees. Through a small viewport, they could see the corridor outside. Pressed her face against the glass. "I can see the human," she said. "He is still working." Dr. Neva checked her medical scanner. The corridor is now at 25 degrees. That should be fatal for most species. "Is the human dying?" asked, her voice worried. They all looked through the viewport. Ho was at the console working calmly. He did not look like he was dying, he looked normal. The temperature kept rising, 28 degrees, 30 degrees. And then something strange happened. Through the viewport, they watched as Ho stopped working. He looked at his thermal suit, seemed to think for a moment, and then began to remove it. Gasped, "What is he doing?" "He is taking off his protection," Dr. Neva said, her voice filled with horror. "He is killing himself." But Ho did not look like a man who was dying. He unzipped his thermal suit and pulled it off his shoulders. Layer by layer, he removed the thick protective clothing. First the outer shell, then the insulated middle layer, then the inner lining. They watched in stunned silence. They had never seen a human without the thermal suit before. They did not know what was underneath. They were about to find out. The engineering bay was now 33 degrees. For the trapped in their cold chamber, this was a nightmare. For Ho, it was getting warm inside his thermal suit. He had worn the suit every day for 3 months. He had eaten in it, worked in it, and even slept in it. They never asked what was underneath. They probably assumed it was more strange human technology, or perhaps they thought humans looked the same as them under their clothes. They were wrong. Ho pulled down the zipper of his outer suit layer. The material was thick and heavy. It had kept him warm for 3 months, but now it was making him too hot. He could feel sweat forming on his skin. If he did not remove the suit, he would overheat inside it. He pulled his arms out of the sleeves and let the top half hang at his waist. Underneath, he wore a simple gray tank top. His arms were now bare. In the cold chamber, made a sound that was something between a gasp and a scream. "What is wrong with his skin?" she said. The other crowded around the viewport. They stared at the human with wide eyes. Ho's skin was not blue like theirs. It was a warm tan color like sand on a beach. It looked soft but also somehow strong. And his arms were covered in shapes that moved. "Those bumps," whispered. "What are those bumps under his skin?" "Muscles," Dr. Neva said softly. She had studied human biology in her training, but she had never seen it in person. Humans have external muscle definition. Their muscles show through their skin. Could not look away. That is terrifying." But she did not sound terrified. She sounded fascinated. Ho continued to work at the console. He did not know they were watching him so closely. He was focused on the repair task. The coolant line was damaged somewhere in the ship's outer hull. He needed to find exactly where. The temperature rose to 34 degrees. Ho wiped his forehead with the back of his hand. Small drops of water came away on his skin. In the cold chamber, Dr. Neva grabbed her communication device. Human Ho, respond immediately. This is Dr. Neva. Ho touched his earpiece. Yes, doctor, is something wrong? You are leaking fluid from your head. Are you injured? Are you bleeding? Ho looked at his hand. The drops of sweat glistened in the light. He almost laughed. No, doctor, I am not injured. This is just sweat. Sweat? Dr. Neva had read about this, but she did not fully understand it. You are losing water through your skin. Is this not dangerous? It is how humans cool down, Ho explained. He kept working while he talked. When we get hot, our bodies push water to the surface of our skin. When the water evaporates, it takes heat away. It is a cooling system. Silence from the cold chamber. Then spoke. Your body has a built-in cooling system. Yes, all humans have it. But you are losing water. You will dehydrate. I will drink more water later. Ho shrugged. It was such a normal thing for him. He did not understand why they were so surprised. Dr. Neva looked at Commander. The human body regulates its own temperature. I knew this from my studies, but I did not understand what it meant. Humans can adapt to heat in real time. Watched Ho through the viewport. Her expression was unreadable. What else can they adapt to? According to my research, humans can survive temperatures from 0 degrees to 50 degrees. Some can survive even more extreme conditions with proper preparation. Almost dropped her cooling pack. 50 degrees, that would boil our blood. Human blood does not boil until 100 degrees, Dr. Neva said. Their biology is fundamentally different from ours. Pressed closer to the viewport. He is not even uncomfortable. Look at him. He is working like nothing is wrong. It was true. Ho was completely focused on his work. He tapped on the console, read the data, and made calculations. The heat that would kill any in minutes was just a mild inconvenience for him. Then the temperature reached 35 degrees. Ho stopped working. He looked down at himself. The tank top was now damp with sweat. It was sticking to his body. He pulled at the fabric, trying to get some air circulation. It was not enough. This is not working, he muttered to himself. He reached down and grabbed the bottom of his tank top. In one smooth motion, he pulled it over his head and tossed it aside. In the cold chamber, no one spoke. No one breathed. Ho stood at the console with his upper body completely bare. His chest was broad and defined. His stomach had visible muscle lines. His shoulders were round and strong. His back, when he turned, showed even more muscle definition. Bodies were smooth. They were elegant and slim, with no visible muscles under their skin. Their beauty came from their graceful shapes and glowing blue color. Human bodies were different. Human bodies were built for power. He looks like a predator, whispered. There was no fear in her voice, only wonder. He is a predator, Dr. Neva said quietly. Humans evolved as hunters on their world. They chased their prey for hours until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies are built for endurance and strength. Watched Ho's muscles move as he worked. Every time he reached for something, the shapes under his skin shifted. It was hypnotic. I thought humans were fragile, she said. Everyone says humans are fragile. Commander finally spoke. Her voice was soft. Everyone was wrong. Ho was still unaware of his audience. He was deep in the diagnostic data now. The damage to the coolant line was in Section 7 of the outer hull. A micrometeor had punctured the line. The repair would be complicated, but it was possible. He reached up to scratch his shoulder, and his arm muscles flexed. Made a small sound. Are you all right? Dr. Neva asked her. I am fine. His voice was higher than usual. I am completely fine. She was not fine. None of them were fine. They were watching something they had never seen before. A creature from a death world, working calmly in conditions that would kill them. And that creature was beautiful. Not elegant or graceful or smooth. Beautiful like a storm. Beautiful like a star. Beautiful like something dangerous that you could not look away from. Ho finally found the data he needed. He smiled to himself and saved the information to his personal device. "Commander," he said into his comm, "I found the problem. There is a puncture in the coolant line on the outer hull. I can repair it, but I will need to do an exterior spacewalk." Commander pressed the communication button. "Understood. How long will the repair take?" "About 40 minutes outside. The exterior of the ship is exposed to space. The temperature there is negative 270 degrees. "I know." Ho did not sound worried. "I will wear a spacesuit." Looked at Dr. Neva. The doctor looked back at her. They were both thinking the same thing. This human had just been working in 35-degree heat. Now he was going to walk into the coldest environment possible, and he spoke about it like it was nothing. "Human Ho," Commander said slowly. "Before you proceed, I need you to explain something to me." "Yes, Commander." "Exactly what temperatures can your species survive?" Ho thought about it. "Well, it depends on the human and the situation, but in general, with proper equipment, we can handle almost anything." He said it so casually, like it was obvious, like everyone should know this. The in the cold chamber looked at each other. "I want to visit Earth someday," said quietly. "Are you insane?" replied. "That planet would kill us in minutes." "I know." Eyes were still on the viewport, still on Ho, "but I want to see where something like him comes from." Had no response to that. Neither did anyone else. They just watched as the human prepared for his next task, moving through deadly heat like it was a summer breeze back home. The questions started immediately after Ho announced his spacewalk plan. Commander insisted that he come to the cold chamber viewport and explain human biology before he did anything else. She needed to understand what she was dealing with. Ho walked to the cold chamber door. The corridor was now 37 degrees. He was sweating freely, but his movements were still strong and steady. When he reached the viewport, he could see all four pressed against the glass. They stared at him like he was some kind of exotic animal in a zoo. "You wanted to talk, Commander?" he asked. Nodded. Her eyes kept moving across his bare chest and arms. She forced herself to focus on his face. "I need to understand human capabilities. You have been on this ship for 3 months, and I realize now that I know nothing about your species." "What do you want to know?" "Everything," crossed her arms. "Start with temperature. What is the range of temperatures your body can handle?" Ho leaned against the wall. He thought about how to explain something so basic that he had never really considered it before. "Humans are warm-blooded," he began. "That means our bodies create their own heat. Our internal temperature stays at about 37 degrees all the time. Hot or cold outside, we stay the same inside." Dr. Neva's eyes went wide. "Your internal temperature is 37 degrees, but that is higher than the current corridor temperature. That is higher than our fever threshold." "Yes, humans run hot." "You are like a small engine," said with amazement. "You create your own heat." "I suppose that is one way to think about it," Ho smiled. "Because we make our own heat, we can survive in cold environments. And because we can sweat, we can survive in hot environments. Our bodies adapt." "What is the coldest temperature you can survive?" asked. "Without protection, around 0 degrees for several hours. With proper clothing, much colder. Humans have lived in places that stay below negative 40 degrees for months at a time." They exchanged looks. Negative 40 degrees was colder than space in their minds. It was impossible. "And the hottest," Commander pressed. "Without protection, around 50 degrees for short periods. With water and shade, we can survive in deserts that reach 60 degrees during the day. Our ancestors evolved in Africa, one of the hottest regions on Earth." Dr. Neva grabbed her medical scanner from her belt. May I scan you? I want to verify this information with my own instruments. Ho nodded. Go ahead. The scanner hummed as Neva pointed it at the viewport. Even through the glass, it could read Ho's vital signs. Core body temperature 37.2 degrees, she read aloud. Heart rate elevated but stable, blood pressure normal, hydration slightly low, muscle activity high. She lowered the scanner. Her hands were shaking. You are perfectly healthy. The temperature that is killing our ship is your normal internal state. I told you, Ho said gently, humans run hot. Raised her hand like a student in a classroom. I have a question. Yes. Does sweating feel strange? When the water comes out of your skin, does it hurt? Ho laughed. It was a warm, genuine sound. No, it does not hurt. It feels like relief. When you are hot and you start to sweat, it means your body is working to cool you down. It is a good feeling. But you are losing water, continued. Is that not dangerous? It can be if I do not drink enough, but right now I am fine. I will drink some water after the repairs. He paused. Would you like to see something interesting? They all nodded. Ho held up his arm. Small drops of sweat glistened on his skin. Watch this. He blew gently across his forearm. The moisture evaporated quickly in the hot air. When the sweat evaporates, it takes heat away from my skin. That is why sweating cools us down. The water carries the heat away. That is incredible, breathed. She had moved closer to the viewport. Her blue face was inches from the glass. Your body is a self-regulating thermal system. I never thought about it that way, but yes, I suppose it is. His eyes traced the lines of his arm, the muscles, the veins, the way his skin stretched over the shapes beneath. Your muscles, she said quietly. Why can I see them so clearly? Ho looked down at his arm. Humans have low body fat compared to some species. Our muscles are closer to the surface. When we move, you can see them shift. Can you move them now? Ho raised an eyebrow, but looked so curious, so fascinated that he could not say no. He made a fist. The muscles in his forearm tensed and rose. Then he flexed his bicep. The muscle swelled under his skin, creating a distinct round shape. His mouth fell open. That is the most terrifying and beautiful thing I have ever seen, she whispered. Giggled, you are starring. I am not starring, I am observing for scientific purposes. You are definitely starring, Dr. Neva said, but she was also starring. They all were. Commander cleared her throat. She was the captain. She needed to maintain professionalism, but even she could not deny what she was seeing. Human Ho, she said formally. The Galactic Union classified Earth as a Category 7 death world. That is the highest danger rating. I always thought it meant your planet was full of deadly creatures and extreme weather. It is, Ho confirmed. But I did not understand, met his eyes. The planet is deadly because it created you. Humans are the ultimate product of extreme evolution. You are not fragile. You are, she searched for the right word. Terrifying supplied. I was going to say adaptable. Both, Dr. Neva said. Humans are both. The temperature in the corridor reached 38 degrees. Ho wiped his forehead again. The sweat was coming faster now. I should start the spacewalk soon, he said. The longer I wait, the harder the repair will be. You will go from 38-degree heat into the vacuum of space, Commander said. The temperature difference will be over 300 degrees. Yes. And you are not concerned. Ho smiled. It was a confident smile. The smile of a creature that had evolved on a world that tried to kill everything living on it. Commander, I grew up in Korea. In summer, the temperature can reach 35 degrees with high humidity. In winter, it drops to -20, sometimes on the same week. Koreans have a saying for this kind of weather. What is the saying? There is no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing. He said it so simply. so casually, like surviving extreme temperature swings was just a normal part of life. Because for humans it was. Commander stood straight. She had commanded this ship for 10 years. She had led her crew through asteroid fields and solar storms. She had always believed that we're among the most capable species in the galaxy. She was beginning to think she had been wrong. "Proceed with the spacewalk," she ordered, "and human ho." "Yes, Commander." "When this is over, I want a full report on human capabilities. Everything. I will not underestimate your species again." Ho nodded respectfully. Then he turned and walked back toward the equipment bay to prepare his spacesuit. They watched him go. The muscles in his back shifted with each step. Drops of sweat rolled down his spine. He moved like a predator, calm, confident, unstoppable. "I need to update my files on humans," Dr. Neva said quietly. "We all do," Commander replied. Was still pressed against the viewport, watching until Ho disappeared around a corner. "Is it strange," she said softly, "that I find the scary death world creature very attractive?" No one answered. But no one disagreed either. The repair was going to take longer than expected. Ho discovered that the damage to the coolant line was more serious than the diagnostic had shown. What he thought would be a 40-minute spacewalk was going to be at least 2 hours of internal preparation first. He worked in the equipment bay, gathering tools and spare parts. The temperature was now 38 degrees throughout the ship. Sweat dripped from his body onto the floor, creating small wet spots wherever he stood. In the cold chamber, they took turns watching through the viewport. They called it safety monitoring. Everyone knew that was not the real reason. "He has been working for 3 hours now," reported. "She had not moved from the viewport in 45 minutes. He shows no signs of slowing down." "Humans have remarkable endurance," Dr. Neva said. She was reviewing everything she could find about human biology in the ship's database. They evolved as persistence hunters. Their ancestors would chase animals for days until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. "Days," repeated. She was pretending to check system readings, but her eyes kept moving to the viewport. "They would run for days. Their bodies are designed for it. They regulate temperature through sweating. They store energy efficiently. They can eat almost anything. Humans are essentially biological survival machines." Commander was sitting in the corner thinking. She had always prided herself on knowing her crew, on understanding their strengths and weaknesses, but she had completely misjudged Ho. For 3 months, she had seen him as the fragile human who needed a special suit to survive, the weak link on her ship, the species that the Galactic Union sent as a gesture of goodwill, not because they were useful. She had been so wrong. "I want to help him," said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. "What?" Dr. Neva asked. "I am an engineer. This is my ship. I should be helping with repairs, not hiding in a cold room while the human does all the work." "The temperature is lethal for us," Commander said firmly. "You would collapse within minutes." "I know, but I cannot just watch. It is not right." Touched shoulder. "He seems to be managing well." "That is not the point." His voice was frustrated. "He is part of my engineering team. He is my responsibility, and he is out there alone because I cannot handle a little heat." 38 degrees is not a little heat, Dr. Neva reminded her, "for it is." "I know what it is. I am not stupid." Commander stood up. She walked to the cold chamber's equipment locker and pulled out an emergency cooling vest. It was designed for short-term exposure to high temperatures, not comfortable but survivable. "How long can someone function in this vest at 38 degrees?" she asked Dr. Neva. The doctor calculated. 15 minutes, 20 at most. After that, core temperature rises to dangerous levels. Handed the vest to. "You have 15 minutes. Help him prepare the tools for the spacewalk, then come back." His eyes widened. "Commander." You are right, he should not be alone, and I need my crew to know that we support each other. His voice softened. Be careful. Put on the cooling vest quickly. It wrapped around her torso and hummed as it activated. Cold liquid circulated through tubes in the fabric. She stepped out of the cold chamber. The heat hit her like a wall. Even with the cooling vest, she could feel it pressing against her skin. It was thick and heavy, like walking through warm water. Her body immediately began to protest. But she walked forward anyway. Ho looked up when she entered the equipment bay. His expression showed surprise. What are you doing out here? Helping, she grabbed a tool kit from the shelf. Tell me what you need. You should not be. 15 minutes, she interrupted. That is how long I have, so stop wasting time and put me to work. Ho stared at her for a moment. Then he smiled, a real warm smile that made her feel strange inside. All right, I need the sealant packs from Locker 12 and the micro-welding kit from the storage room. Moved quickly. The heat was affecting her, but she pushed through it. She gathered the supplies and brought them to Ho's workstation. As she worked, she tried not to stare at his bare chest. She mostly failed. Thank you for this, Ho said. You did not have to come out here. Yes, I did, wiped her forehead. Did not sweat like humans, but they did produce small amounts of moisture when overheated. You are part of my team. I could not leave you alone. Your team, Ho raised an eyebrow. I thought I was the weak link that needed constant supervision. Felt her face heat up even more, and not from the temperature. I was wrong about that. I was very wrong. It is okay. Most species underestimate humans. Ho did not seem offended. We are smaller than many other species. We do not have claws or armor or telepathy. At first glance, we seem unremarkable. At first glance, agreed. She was now standing close to him, helping to organize the tools. This close, she could see every detail of his body, the small hairs on his arms, the faint scars on his hands from years of engineering work, the way his muscles shifted when he moved. But then, he prompted. Met his eyes. But then you watch a human work in lethal heat while the rest of the crew hides in a freezer, and you realize that first glances mean nothing. 10 minutes had passed, could feel her body starting to struggle. Her vision was getting slightly blurry. Her movements were slowing. You should go back, Ho said. You have done enough. The tools are ready thanks to you. He put his hand on her shoulder. His touch was warm, almost hot against her cooling vest. Go, I will take it from here. Wanted to argue, but her body was failing. She nodded weakly. Then something happened. Her legs gave out. She did not fall. Before she could hit the ground, Ho caught her. He lifted her like she weighed nothing, cradling her against his chest. I have got you, he said calmly. In the cold chamber, everyone saw this through the viewport. Gasped. Dr. Neva grabbed her scanner. Commander stepped forward. Ho carried to the cold chamber door. He moved quickly but smoothly, not jostling her at all. When he reached the door, Commander opened it from inside. A wave of cold air rushed out. Ho stepped close enough to hand to the commander, but he did not enter. She is dehydrated and overheated, he said, but she will be fine with rest and cool fluids. Thank you, said. She took into her arms and passed her to Dr. Neva. Ho stepped back. The cold air had felt good on his skin, but he had more work to do. I am going to start the spacewalk now, he said. The tools are ready. I should be back in about 90 minutes. Human Ho, Commander said before he could leave. He stopped. Yes. You carried her like it was nothing. How much does weigh? Ho thought about it. Maybe 50 kilograms, something like that. And how much can humans lift? Trained humans can lift 2 to 3 times their body weight. I am not trained, but I can manage about 1.5 times. He paused. Why do you ask? Did not answer the question. Be safe out there. I will, Commander. He walked away toward the airlock. Commander watched him go, then looked down at who was slowly recovering on a cooling bench. "He lifted you like you were a child's toy," she said quietly. His eyes were still slightly unfocused, but she heard, "I know I was there." "The Galactic Union is afraid of humans," continued. "I never understood why. Now I am beginning to." Was back at the viewport, watching Ho prepare for his spacewalk. He is going from 38 degrees to negative 270 degrees. That is a difference of over 300 degrees. "And he spoke about it like he was going for a morning walk," Dr. Neva added. Commander crossed her arms. "When this mission is over, I am going to recommend that every ship in the fleet request a human crew member." "Why?" asked. "Because I want the galaxy to know what we now know." His voice was firm. "Humans are not fragile. They are not weak. They are survivors from a death world, and they might just be the most adaptable species in existence." In the airlock, Ho finished putting on his spacesuit. He sealed the helmet and checked his oxygen levels. "Exiting the ship in 3 minutes," he announced over the comm. He did not know that 4 were holding their breath, watching him with a mix of fear, respect, and something that might have been admiration. He was just doing his job. To him, this was normal. To them, he was extraordinary. The airlock door opened, and Ho stepped into the void. Space was silent. That was the first thing that always struck him about spacewalks. No matter how chaotic things were inside the ship, outside was nothing but perfect silence. The stars hung motionless in every direction, cold and distant and beautiful. His spacesuit protected him from the vacuum. Inside, the temperature was a comfortable 20 degrees. Outside, it was effectively negative 270 degrees. If his suit failed, he would freeze solid in minutes. Ho did not think about that. He focused on the task. The damage to the coolant line was on the underside of the ship. He used magnetic boots to walk along the hull, moving carefully toward Section 7. Each step was slow and deliberate. One mistake out here could be fatal. In the cold chamber, the crew watched through external cameras. The image was slightly grainy, but clear enough to see Ho moving across the ship's surface like a tiny figure against the vast darkness. "His suit temperature is stable," Dr. Neva reported. She was monitoring his vital signs through the suit's transmitter. "Heart rate elevated but normal, breathing steady. He is performing well." His face was pressed against the monitor. How can he do this? He was just in 38-degree heat. Now he is in the coldest place possible. How does his body handle such changes? "Humans are homeostatically robust," Dr. Neva explained. "Their internal systems fight to maintain balance no matter what the external conditions are. Heat, cold, pressure changes. Their bodies adapt." "It is not fair," muttered. She was still recovering on the cooling bench, but her strength was returning. "They get to survive everything." "Not everything," Dr. Neva corrected. "Humans can still die from extreme conditions. They are simply much harder to kill than most species give them credit for." Commander watched the monitor in silence. Ho had reached Section 7. He was examining the damaged coolant line, running his gloved hands along the surface to find the puncture. "He found it," said. "He is starting the repair." Outside, Ho worked carefully. The puncture was small, barely 2 centimeters across, but it had caused a cascade of problems throughout the cooling system. Micrometeors were a constant threat in space. Ships had shielding, but sometimes tiny particles got through. He pulled out the sealant pack and micro-welding kit. The repair would take precision and patience. Both were things he had plenty of. The work was slow. Minutes stretched into half an hour, then 45 minutes, then an hour. Ho's fingers were getting cold. Even through the insulated gloves, the extreme temperature was starting to affect him. He flexed his hands periodically to keep the blood flowing. "Human Ho, status report," Commander requested. "Repair is 70% complete," he responded. His voice was slightly strained but steady. "The patch is holding. I need about 20 more minutes. Your glove temperature is dropping, Dr. Neva warned. Your fingers may be at risk of frostbite. I know, I will be quick. Frostbite, another thing that would kill instantly. For a human, it was a manageable risk, painful but survivable. Bit her lip. He is hurting himself to save us. He is doing his duty, Commander said, but her voice was softer than usual, just like any of us would. 20 more minutes passed. Ho finished applying the sealant and activated the micro-welder. The patch fused to the coolant line, creating a perfect seal. He checked the connections twice, then 3 times. Everything was solid. Repair complete, he announced. You should be able to restart the cooling system now. In the engineering bay, still at 38 degrees, the automated systems received the signal. The cooling unit hummed to life. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the temperature began to drop. 37 degrees, 36, 35. In the cold chamber, let out a cheer, smiled weakly from her bench. Dr. Neva closed her eyes in relief. Commander allowed herself a small smile. Human Ho, excellent work. Return to the ship immediately. On my way, Commander. The walk back to the airlock was slower. Ho's body was feeling the effects of the cold now. His movements were stiff, and his fingers had lost feeling. When he finally stepped through the airlock and the door sealed behind him, he let out a long breath. The interior of the ship was now 30 degrees, still warm for a human but cooling rapidly. Ho removed his helmet. His face was pale and his lips had a slight blue tint. His hands were shaking as he pulled off his gloves. The tips of his fingers were red and raw. He had pushed himself to the limit, but he had done it. The cold chamber door opened and the crew emerged. They moved cautiously, still adjusting to the warmer temperature. Commander reached Ho first. You saved this ship, she said simply. Ho shrugged. It made him wince. His shoulders were sore from the spacewalk. I just did my job. You did much more than that. Extended her hand in the human greeting she had learned. Thank you, Ho. He shook her hand. Her grip was cool against his warm palm. Dr. Neva arrived with a medical kit. Let me see your fingers, she demanded. She scanned them quickly and frowned. Minor frostbite. You will heal, but you need treatment. I figured. Ho sat down on a nearby bench. His body was exhausted. He had gone from freezing cold to extreme heat to freezing cold again in the span of a few hours. Even for a human, that was a lot. Approached shyly. She was holding a container of hot liquid. I made tea, she said. The database said humans use hot beverages to warm up after cold exposure. Ho took the container gratefully. The warmth spread through his frozen fingers. Thank you, this is perfect. She beamed. I added honey. The database said humans like sweetness. He took a sip. It was not quite like the tea from home, but it was close enough. It is delicious. Smile grew even wider. Walked over slowly. She was still weak from her own heat exposure, but she refused to stay seated. I owe you an apology, she said. Ho looked up. For what? For 3 months I thought you were weak. I thought you needed protection. I thought you were a burden on this crew. Her voice was heavy with shame. I was an idiot. You were not an idiot, you just did not know. Ho smiled at her. Now you know. Now I know, she agreed. Humans are not fragile, humans are. She searched for the word. Adaptable, Commander supplied. Terrifying, added with a giggle. Beautiful, Dr. Neva said quietly. Everyone looked at her. She cleared her throat. From a biological perspective, purely scientific observation. Ho laughed. It was a tired laugh, but genuine. Thank you, all of you. I am glad I could help. The ship's temperature continued to drop. 30 degrees, 25, 20. By the time it reached 15 degrees, they were comfortable again. By the time it reached 10 degrees, they were relaxed. Ho put his thermal suit back on. The familiar weight settled around him. and he felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. "Back to normal," he said. Commander watched him zip up the suit. She was quiet for a moment. Then she walked to the environmental controls and made an adjustment. The cooling system hummed. The temperature stabilized at 8 degrees instead of the usual 5. "Commander," Dr. Neva questioned. "A small adjustment," said casually, "for crew comfort." Ho noticed the change. 8 degrees was still cold for him, but noticeably warmer than before. He looked at Commander. She looked back at him with the slightest hint of a smile. "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you," she replied, "for everything." They continued its journey through the stars. The crew returned to their duties, but things were different now. When Ho walked through the corridors, they did not just nod politely. They stopped to talk. They asked questions about Earth, about humans, about his life before the ship. Asked about human music. Ho taught her a Korean folk song, and she practiced it for weeks. Dr. Neva requested permission to conduct a comprehensive study of human biology. Ho agreed, and she wrote a paper that would eventually be published in 3 galactic medical journals. Became his closest colleague. They worked together in the engineering bay, and she never again suggested that humans were fragile. She still competed with him, though. Some things never changed. And Commander began including Ho in senior staff meetings. His insights, she said, were too valuable to ignore. Months later, when they returned to a Galactic Union station, the crew filed their mission reports. In the section about notable events, Commander wrote a single paragraph about the cooling malfunction. The official record stated, "Emergency repairs conducted successfully by human crew member Ho. Human demonstrated exceptional resilience and adaptability under extreme thermal conditions. Recommendation: increase human integration across all Galactic Union vessels." The recommendation was approved within weeks. By the end of the year, dozens of human crew members had been assigned to galactic ships. Ho never thought of himself as a pioneer. He was just an engineer from Korea who liked working with machines. He did not see himself as exceptional. But across the galaxy, species were learning what the crew of the now knew. Humans were not what they seemed. They were not fragile or weak or limited. They were survivors from a death world, forged in fire and ice and everything in between. And they were just getting started. On the Ho worked at his console in the engineering bay. The temperature was 8 degrees, a compromise between comfort zones. He was wearing his thermal suit again, but sometimes he unzipped the collar when they were not looking. Walked by and paused, working late again. "Just finishing some diagnostics," he replied. She nodded and continued walking. Then she stopped and looked back. "Oh, yes. I am glad you are on the ship." He smiled. "I am glad to be here." She walked away with a hint of blue across her cheeks. Blushing was subtle, but Ho was learning to recognize it. He returned to his work, humming that Korean folk song loved so much. Outside the viewport, stars drifted by in endless silence. The universe was vast and cold and full of wonders. And somewhere in it, a human engineer was making his mark, one impossible repair at a time.